I call this meeting to an order for Madera County Transportation Commission for February 22nd, 2023. Can we have the roll call, please?
Chair Ahmed,
Here.
Vice Chair Gonzalez. Here. Commissioner Gallegos. Here. Commissioner Rodriguez.
Here.
Commissioner Rogers.
Here.
Commissioner Poitras is absent. We
Thank
have a
you.
quorum.
Can we please join me for the pledge of allegiance? Ready? Salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to public comments, this time is made available for comments from the public on matters within the board's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda. Each speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each. Attention is called to the fact that the board is prohibited by law from taking any substantive action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda. And no adverse conclusion should be drawn if the board does not respond to the public comment at this time. It is requested that no comment be made during this period on items that are on today's agenda. Members of the public may comment on any item that is on today's agenda when the item is called and should notify the chairman of their desire to address the board when that agenda item is called. With that, do we have any public at this time? Saying none, I close the public comment period and moving on to MCTC sitting as the Transportation Policy Committee. Item 4, transportation consent item. All items on this consent agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by MCTC staff and will be approved by one motion. If no members of the committee or public wishes to comment or ask questions, if comment or discussion is desired by anyone, the item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered in the listed sequence with an opportunity for any members of the public to address the committee concerning the item before taking any action. With that, anybody like to pull any item or discuss?
Chairman, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Chairman Ahmed, I'd like to pull 4C for just a question.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else that would like to pull or? Then none with that, we move to item 4C for the later discussion and for a motion. Move to approve. I have
Second.
I have a first and a second. Can we have the roll call or just
I don't think a roll call is necessary now, since we don't
Okay.
have anybody.
so all in favor say aye?
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Thank you. And now moving to discuss that item.
So the question I have is, I read through it, are we still have a vacancy for District 5 on that, Transportation Advisory Commission?
This is the advisory council.
Yeah.
Committee, the Measure T.
No, 4C, vacancy of Social Services Transportation Advisory Council.
Oh, for the SS tax. Okay,
But
we still have a vacancy for SS tax.
Yes, so you're asking about the vacancy. So this is not specific to District 5. This is a vacancy for a member of Madera, or excuse me, a citizen member that is a citizen of Madera County that is a potential transit user that is over the age of 60.
So just over the age of 60, it could be anywhere in any district?
Yes,
Okay,
at large, I guess you could say.
and so we still have one vacancy?
This vacancy has been, the person that was in this seat was vacated, I believe, less than a month ago.
Okay, so have we filled it?
No, it
Okay,
is now open.
so we're still looking for it. Okay,
Yes.
that was my question. Thank you. That's all, Chair Ahmad.
thank you. So with that, do we need to make a motion for that approval and direction? Moving on to item number 5, transportation action discussion, item 9. And next is MCTC sitting as the Madera County Transportation Commission. Item 6, reaffirm all action taken while sitting as the Transportation Policy Committee. Number 7, administrative consent item. Number 6, do we need to reaffirm?
Yes.
I'll go ahead and reaffirm. Second. Yeah, I have a first and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. And item 7, administrative consent item. All items on this consent agenda are considered routine and non-controversial by MCTC staff and will be approved by one motion. If no members of the committee or public wishes to comment or ask question, if comment or discussion is desired by anyone, items will be removed from the consent agenda. Anybody like to pull any item from the agenda for further discussion?
I'll move to approve.
Okay, I have a first, do I have a second? Second? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Very good.
All right, number 8, administrative action discussion item 8A. For year 2023-24 draft overall work program and budget.
Yes, so you spoke a little too soon. I'm just kidding. So included in your package, or is a link, I believe, right?
Yes.
There's a link to the website that includes our overall draft work program for the fiscal year 23-24. So the process for this is we develop our work elements for the upcoming fiscal year. We've met with our partners, FTA, Federal Transit Administration, Federal Highways Administration, Caltrans District 6 and Caltrans headquarters, discussed, current overall work program right now, what's going to be moving forward into the next fiscal year and what new products will you have for the upcoming fiscal year. And so this is that document. It's really a budget document. It's if you open it up when you review it, the beginning of the overall work program outlines our process, who we are, what we do, how we're funded, some of our planning emphasis areas, and then it moves right into what we call in work elements. And in our work elements, there are certain tasks that we focus on for the upcoming fiscal year. And so at the beginning, I'll just go real quickly through it. It's you will have it to review. It'll be circulated for review, and then it'll be coming back to you for approval at probably our April meeting. And so the first section, so everything's in sections, is regional transportation planning. And so this is the area where we work on our regional transportation plan, our sustainable community strategy. And, we did complete that regional transportation plan, but of course, there's ongoing work that continues moving forward into the next development of the next regional transportation plan. And then we also need to work with the California Air Resources Board on our sustainable community strategy. They take it, they look at it, they review, they ask questions, and we need to meet certain targets. And so there's work that will be continuing on in the next fiscal year related to that. I'm just gonna kind of flip through some of my notes here. Also included in this section is it's funded through SB1. It's the Oakhurst Multimodal Mobility Study. And it's the information's included in here on the type of it's on State Route 41 and State Route 49, looking at multimodal options. What can we do for improvements here for bicycle pedestrian facilities, walkways, type of thing. We're working with your staffs on that. We have budgeted a certain amount of funding for it. We will probably be going back and revisiting it and adding some additional funding, or maybe some of our next SB1 grant will help fund this project. So we'll need to have that discussion with your staff moving forward in this draft work plan. There's also a regional growth forecast that we've included with Senate Bill 1 funds as well. And that's basically gathering data to develop our next regional transportation plan. So some of the growth and forecasts that we need to be taking into consideration, some socioeconomic data that we will need to have moving forward in our next regional transportation plan. The next section is public transportation planning. That's focused on transit and rail. Somewhat status quo. We work with the San Joaquin Regional Rail Authority, and we will continue moving forward with that. We also are working with the county on the grant to relocate to the Amtrak station. So we'll be working on the study of the transit-oriented development, or what kind of vision do we have in that area. So we'll be participating in meetings related to that. Let's see, active transportation planning, we'll just continue to monitor active transportation, complete streets planning, working with your agencies on your complete streets policies. If any assistance that we can provide in that area, we're available to assist. We continue to encourage active transportation planning. And so there's some funding, grant funding available out there. We encourage you to apply for any kind of active transportation planning funds. The next section is highways, corridors, and routes, regional of significance. In this area, we will be looking at State Route 99, State Route 41. There's a multimodal corridor plan that we are going to be working on in cooperation with District 6, District 10, and District 3. This is a requirement that the state has in order for Madera to receive funding, an allocation funding for the State Route 99 project. And again, it's multimodal corridor, looking at how we mitigate any kind of capacity increasing type projects. When you're adding capacity, we need to mitigate what are we looking at? What kind of projects? Looking at managed lanes or what else is available, hydrogen filling corridor or whatever it might be. So that will take up quite a bit of work for the next 18 months. We'll be working in coordination and cooperation with all the San Joaquin Valley regional planning agencies. We will also be looking at any kind of grant opportunities for State Route 41 Expressway, State Route 99, and looking at any kind of opportunities that are available to us. There's always some congressional opportunities. There might be some state opportunities. So we keep our eyes and ears peeled for that type of an opportunity. And we'll go after any kind of funding. Everything seems to be grant-based now, so we'll go after any funding related to those two particular projects. We have our eyes set on working with Caltrans also, either through their support or through some sort of funding. For State Route 99, we need to work on 17 to 21. And so right now we've had a PID, but we need to look at moving forward with an environmental document, but how do we pay for that environmental document? So we need to look at all opportunities that are out there for that. We have data services, forecasting, and modeling. And we'll be focusing on, it might be finished at the end of this fiscal year, GIS mapping. We'd like to work on our website, provide a map and some tools available through our website on if you have an interest in a project, how's that funded? Click on a project, find out a project, when's it funded, what's the status of it, when's it going to be delivered, or what phase are you currently in? Staff is currently working on that. That might not be completed by the end of this fiscal year. It might roll over into the next fiscal year. So that will be a focus as well. Public participation programs, same as status quo. Public project administration. We administer the Transportation Development Act funds. We hold our transit needs hearings, and that will continue forward as well. Other activities, there are unallowable or lobbying type activities. So we do work with you and your staffs on any kind of lobbying. You pay a membership dues, and so those funds are paid for any kind of lobbying activities that we do related to Sacramento or Washington, D.C. And we monitor the whole overall work program, and we also have a section here for Measure T administration. Now that's funded solely through Measure T, not through our planning funds that we receive from the federal government. So what we have looking forward in Measure T is at the direction of this board is looking at what are our opportunities, or what are our next steps, strategies moving forward in 2024. And so we may be retaining some consulting assistance for that work as well, but that decision will be made in the upcoming months. And then, of course, there's the budget, and we outline the budget here on one of the appendixes. It's on page 147. So the budget it's remember, it's a budget, so it changes and we do amendments. And so this is what we're seeing right now is it's reduced about 3%. The revenues we show a 3% decrease, not necessarily a decrease, but we could be carrying over funds, but what we need for next upcoming fiscal year is less 3%. The salaries and benefits are up 4% to adjust for a merit increases for any of the staffs that still have merit or steps increases available to them. COLA at 2%, and we have a planner adjustment that we've been discussing for the past number of years for minimum wage law. So we are adjusting for those purposes as well. And then the indirect costs are pretty status quo, and other direct costs, that's where it went down by 11%. It's because we're not working on the Measure T, and we're not working on the current regional transportation plan, the consulting services that we've been retaining for the next for the fiscal year that we're currently in right now. But of course, those will change as we're approached, or if we have new ideas or new planning products that we need to move forward in the next current fiscal year. So this is available for you for review. If you have any questions, staff is here to talk about any of the work elements that they work on directly, or if you have any questions, you could email me, call me, and we can discuss further. But we will circulate it with our partners, and then receive comments from Caltrans, FHWA, FTA. We'll incorporate those comments, address each comment, and then you'll see it again in April. So it's just an approval for circulation.
Any questions?
You start first.
Go ahead.
Patricia, when we receive it in April, can we get a hard copy of it? So I'm like you, I like to post it notes and highlight. It was really hard to do on a computer. I'm making notes on the side. So I know it's just a draft, so I didn't ask for it because we don't want to kill more trees. So when you get a chance, if you can, when April comes, I would like a hard copy.
Yes,
Maybe my colleagues would also. Thank you.
I was gonna move to approve the for circulation. Before it does, I did have a question for either Patricia or maybe Mike. With the active transportation, it states that Caltrans is currently working in developing a California active transportation, and each district is required to implement. What does that look like? What exactly are they requiring, especially for like within the state and within our local jurisdictions?
So what we did this past year is we developed, every district was resourced to develop what they call a CAT plan, which is a California Active Transportation Plan. It was done by district. So it was, I can't remember when we adopted it, about a year or so ago. And basically identified what, based on surveys and polling, public outreach, and through a consultant, where the needs were at. So it's kind of a need-based study. Moving forward, looking like to get resourced more so we could do a more robust active transportation plan by district.
So it's you narrow it down by district, and
We're doing it by district.
does that narrow down even more by your local district? Your district encompasses.
Has the 5 counties,
5
correct? So
counties.
it would have, the one we had before, we can probably have more of a GIS based map where we can identify where the needs are, where need for, whether it's bike and ped facility gaps, things of that nature.
Okay. Thank you, appreciate that, Mike. That's all I have, Mr.
Any other questions? And none. With that, we have the first on the floor, and do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have first and a second for the direction to go ahead for the circulation. Will we say aye? Aye. Aye. Thank you. Okay, with that, we're moving on to MCTC sitting as the Madera County 2006 Transportation Authority. Item number 9, authority administrative consent item. Again, if anybody like to discuss or pull that item for further discussion, let me know. There is no items anyway, so there's nothing to discuss. So item number 10, authority consent discussion. Item 10A, Measure T, Citizens Oversight Committee members.
Me.
There you go.
So we've received the application of former Supervisor Max Rodriguez. He is in District 4. And so his application was in your packet as well. And we would like to put him forward for appointment for District 4.
the appointment of Max to the Measure T committee.
I have a first and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any- Anybody from the public wishing to comment on this? No. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it, thank you. With that, we're moving on to miscellaneous items. Item 11A, item from the staff.
So I have a few items. The first two are related to Measure T. And at our January meeting, Commissioner Gonzalez asked a question of staff if we had done any follow-up on Measure T. And if we planned on doing any follow-up on Measure T to find out, you know, from the voters, how did they vote and did they know that it didn't pass? And so I kind of got, you know, my response at the time was I'm still recovering. So that kind of got me into motion. And so just wanted to let you know what we have decided to do is it'll be released today or tomorrow. It'll be in the mail, a mailer to every household in Madera, the whole entire county, like we did previously. And the mailer will have some information about Measure T, and this is gonna be bigger, it's be nicer, but I just had to kind of like what it looked like, what it might look like coming to you. But anyway, it will have some information about Measure T and that it did not succeed or pass and what it has done. But more importantly, there'll be a QR code on there, and the QR code will send you to a link to respond to a survey. Or you can just take the mailer and there's a tear sheet and you can respond. And it's, you know, if you voted no, why did you vote no? If you voted yes, why did you vote yes? And then also listing some priorities. And so we gave some examples of priorities and we asked them to list it in 1 through 5. So you will see this in your mailbox probably by Saturday on the weekend. So I just want to make you aware of that. When you receive it, you'll know that it was initiated from here. And then the second item is also at the January meeting, there was discussion about whether we go in 2024, 2026. And so, you know, it looked like you were leaning more towards 2024. It wasn't a direct recommendation, but I thought that we should have that discussion nonetheless. So we had met with a couple of you and joined me. So Chair Ahmed and Commissioner Rodriguez joined in a discussion, and we sat and we talked about, you know, the pros and cons about moving forward. And when I left that meeting, the direction I felt like I received was to, you know, it's best to let's have a meeting with all those who were interested in Measure T at the time. So the opposition and those in support and your agency staffs, the active involvement, and let's have a roundtable discussion. And so I did schedule that meeting for Monday, March 13th. It'll be here. And all those that I've extended the invite to have expressed interest in attending. So they all will be in attendance, which is great. It's always hard to get everyone's calendar, but at least we gave everybody a month notice. And in addition to that, we will be retaining assistance. We'll have a consultant here to assist us in, you know, an unbiased view, you know, gathering information, and we'll have some easels and paper and write notes and all that. And her name is Eileen Goodwin from Apex. And she has some similar experiences, and she's worked with the CALG directors at one point before, but she's currently working for CalVans right now. And so it fits the work that she does, and I think she'll do a great job for us. And so she'll be assisting in a couple of meetings if we needed a follow-up meeting, so she'll assist in that as well. So that's again is March 13th. And then I wanted to congratulate the county. The county, it's item 4, I think in your package. They were successful on the Safe Routes for All, or Safe Streets for All grant in the amount of $492,000 for a safety action plan. So congratulations to the county on your successful grant. I wanted to draw some attention to items 4E, 4F, 4G, and those were all related to the San Joaquin Valley Policy Council conference that's coming up. So the first one is there's a conference at the end of May. You're all invited, so let us know if you're interested in attending. We will make the appropriate arrangements for you. That's going to be held in Manteca at the Great Wolf Lodge. Great. So bring your bathing suit if you wanna go on the water slide and, no, just kidding.
Yeah, it does come with water slide
With water
tickets.
ticket.
It's the 24th through the 26th.
Yes, in Manteca. The second part of that item was if you have interest in nominating someone or some project or a blueprint award, there's some criteria mentioned in the link that's attached in the agenda. Madera County Transportation Commission will be, that's item 4G, nominating Supervisor Poitras for the Outstanding Elected Official Award. He's receiving the support from the Cop Directors Association for his work in transportation and also addressing blueprint principles. He was just nominated again for his third straight year as chair of the San Joaquin Valley Regional Policy Council. And so it just fit perfectly for this is a newer award. I think it began last year, was the first award opportunity. So, and then the last item I have is the Cottonwood Creek Bridge groundbreaking. I know we talked about this in the fall, September, October of last year, and then it was put on winter suspension. And so it looks like, depending, of course, on weather, construction will begin the first week of April. And I've received an email from Caltrans staff. They're looking at a groundbreaking ceremony sometime, most likely in the week of April 17th, if things work out. And so they're trying to pinpoint down some times with their calendars over at Caltrans as well. So once we know, we will let you know. It will most likely be on an agenda, but if I know the date, I will send it to you sooner to mark it in on your calendar. And so you would all be invited to attend the groundbreaking ceremony. And that's all I have right now from items from staff, unless.
Just a quick question, the flyer that is going out,
Mhm.
we will have that information by March 13th? When the people are responding back?
The responses, that's a good question. Responses, we probably won't have responses, but we'll have whatever has been returned to us by that time. So they'll probably linger in for some time after, so it depends on how long it sits on someone's counter before they fill it out. We got a good response, over 400 the last time that we've done this. So.
Certified.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was just the mail-ins. I'm not quite sure about the online surveys.
Right, okay.
Probably at least double that.
Yeah.
Thank you. With that, moving on to item number 11D, which is item from the Caltrans.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try and drag this out because I feel like the meeting's shorter. It's my drive to the meeting to and from, so I have kind of a criteria.
Don't feel guilty, we're making up for the time.
I think it back to the night before Thanksgiving meeting,
Yeah,
we're here
yeah,
for 3.5
6:30.
hours. No, I think we should cover a lot of items, so maybe this won't be as bad as I thought. Quick update on some of the funding opportunities. We talked about the Clean California, a local grants program. Just a reminder that call went out February 14th for project applications with a due date of April 28th. They've had a couple workshops already and they're scheduling tentatively another one on March 15th to kind of go over filling out the applications. Great program, very competitive here in our district last cycle. It's a great way, no local match is needed, up to $5 million ask, and a lot of flexibility on what you can build. They do want quick build projects though, because construction has to be wrapped up by June 2026. So it's a call, go out, awards will go out this summer. And so I encourage you, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. We're also really promoting our Clean California Community Days, which is March 17th through 27th. So on the Clean California website, you can sign up for cleanups. There'll be some tree planting activities here in the Central Valley, be the kickoff of the statewide effort. For more information, I could forward maybe just out the flyer that's going out if you want to share with their member agencies. The Reconnecting Communities program, the state program. So we're expecting there'll be another workshop for that March 7th, and it calls for late spring, early summer. For those, that's the state program, similar to the Reconnected Communities by the federal program. We're trying to get the announcement. I don't know if anyone else has seen it, but it looked like on Senator Padilla's website, they had an announcement for the California project. So unfortunately, I didn't see the Madera one on there. There's about $36 million, I think, coming to California. I think closest one was like a planning or design study being done in Fresno, I think, for a bridge that what we've been targeting on. So that might help shape the strategy for how we want to pursue the 145 project.
I think, I just want to comment, they were waiting for the federal side to see what we got on that before we.
That's the federal one that I was referring to from Senator Padilla's
You said
website.
that one did not go through.
I did not see it on Senator Padilla's website. I was kind of checking right now because I was told they were gonna go out, but we can talk about it after, but it looks
Yeah.
like I didn't see it on there. There's 36 million, about 5 projects in California. And I didn't see the Madera one on there, unfortunately. So that might, I mean, not that it's good news, but it helps us kind of shape our strategy for how we want to move forward for some of these other programs like Clean California. The Caltrans planning grant, that call went out on January 12th, so its application due March 9th for our annual planning grant call. Said about $34 million in planning studies available and a $50 million one-time augmentation for the climate adaptation studies. Patricia mentioned the 99 corridor plan, and I share the frustration that our partners have about not having that RFP out yet. It is with legal, we were supposed to have comments back. Doesn't matter, we're supposed to have comments back already. And that's supposed to trigger the RFP process. So I have been talking with my director. They're having an executive leadership meeting down in San Diego. So I've asked her to float that there because I know the representatives from legal, but really eager to get that out, get that study started. Cause it's going to be a very robust study for the whole 99 corridor. So working on that. The downtown Madera project, we talked about, unfortunately, it doesn't sound like it's getting a federal program. We are moving forward. Just wanted to share that last week on the 13th, we had Caltrans headquarters leadership from planning in town. And so I did take them out there for a tour. We toured them on a couple of locations in our district and they were very impressed with that corridor and what we have envisioned for there. We gave a little presentation similar that we did to the council to show them the type of projects we are doing and that as we are heavily focused on 99, we're doing a lot of these great complete street projects as well. So they were pretty excited about that. And actually they would like us to continue to work with the city and look at for opportunities going beyond the corridor itself and like strategic growth council grant opportunities, info housing and things like that we could probably look into as well. Just want to share that with you. Our team did meet with the city of Chowchilla, the 99-233 interchange to go over the next phases of design and right of way. So the city is currently reviewing those cost estimates for additional work. We're expecting to have those studies completed and targeting March, April for public circulation and wrapping up project approval environmental document this June, hopefully. She covered the Cottonwood Creek Bridge replacement already, as she mentioned, the winter suspension. So I didn't even know about the groundbreaking. Maybe I'm not invited, but April 17th we're targeted. So maybe you can let me know when the groundbreaking is. Nobody told me that was part of my update. Madera South Expressway, been working with the team. I know they're pursuing raise for that. Jerry reached out with a letter of support. So that was probably one of our biggest accomplishments is hopefully getting that letter of support for what's a general purpose lane project, but typically we haven't provided those kind of letter of support, but there's a lot of history on Madera 41. So it seems like my understanding is on the director's desk for signature. So I did inquire about that today. So I'm hoping we see it any day now because I know there is a rush to get those applications in for raises. People don't like to wait till the day of because the system tends to bog down. So I'm guessing Madera County would like to get them in advance. So it is, I expect them to be coming out electronically soon. I was hoping to hand deliver it to you today, Jared, but it didn't work out. And then last project, Ranchers Rehab. So that project was awarded on January 18th and waiting for final approval from headquarters. After that, we'll be starting construction this spring. And then speaking of letter support process, there'll probably be a slight change in how we do that. So lately what we've been doing is typically headquarters is a call for letter of support for various projects. They ask us to reach out to our partners and then we submit a very detailed intake form. So we're trying to streamline that process. What you'll probably see in the future is you'll see headquarters actually reaching out directly to our partner agencies to make sure that everybody's aware of these letter of support. Because typically what happens is we get a request the last minute for a letter of support. There's a deadline for these letters. And it takes time to get through the director's office. So we're hoping we can do some outreach earlier to give time for us to process those. So that'll be the one change you'll see, but we will continue to work with justifying why these projects and help tell the story to make sure we're getting support from the headquarters level for these applications. I think they do add value, but as a side note, I mean, Madera 41 that received funding, the $25 million, that one did not get a letter of support last cycle from Caltrans, but like I said, for raise, we're thinking it will. So with that, that completes my report. Happy to answer any questions.
I did have a question going right back to that project on State Route 145. So I'm sad to hear that that can go through. I'm not sure if that's final yet, but typically when you see something on the website there for Senator Padilla, is that pretty much official?
Well, I haven't, I was looking through the USDOT website trying to find announcements, couldn't find anything. And I kept coming across an article that kicked me back to Senator Padilla's website, because I think he helped author the language for the bill. And so just looking at it right now, on his website, it says $35 million, almost 36 million to California. A big chunk went to Long Beach. They received 30 million, 2 million to the city of Pasadena, 2 million to the city of San Jose, 680,000 for a 980 project in Oakland, which is more of, I think, a planning study, and 600,000 to city of Fresno for a pedestrian overcrossing near the Roding Park area, near a school.
Yeah.
So those are the ones that are on the website. So he's announcing, I'm assuming it's close to Bob. I know they reached out back to the city, so we were kind of very optimistic, but.
Yeah, well, certainly that has to change the strategy on how the designing process. So question for you is, without really affecting the project, because that has a certain date that it's pending on this deal, we were looking to go a certain route, but now it raises question whether or not we go after the highways to Boulevard and or the raise grant. And I don't know if Caltrans would entertain and possibly having that conversation to see how we can either re-strategize on how we go about these funds or what have you, but that grant is not available yet, right? There's a notice
Right.
of
So raise is due February 28th, and I have been talking with the city and Keith. And
they're jumping on that. They were
Right.
just waiting for the answer here, but would it behoove us then to jump after the other California's version of the RO?
Right, so that one's gonna, I think so my understanding for raise is the awards we announced, I think in June, which is still cutting it close, but the conversation I've had with Keith and the city staff has been, as you pack these applications, just make sure you're talking to us about the scope of work. There may be some things that we could easily incorporate through the process. There may be things that are adjacent to the project that complements the downtown. There could be an item that comes in that our design team looks and says, there's just no way we can meet schedule if we try to incorporate that. So I think the communication is the key part right now. And I think for raise, I think we're supposed to have this project designed and go for final review of the Office of Engineer in December. So we have a little bit of time flexibility, but a lot of it just can depend on the scope and the magnitude of what's being proposed, those applications. So I think it's just very important that we, it sounds like what's being pursued for raise is very similar to what was submitted for RCP. So I did submit a copy of that application to the design folks to start looking for any potential red flags or concerns. But as you know, we have Chair Eager's support, my director's support. So I'm sure we will be pushed to do whatever we can to accommodate any money that comes into that project. But
So
the
what's
communication's key.
What's the likelihood when you have a raise already being applied somewhere here locally, which is State Route 141, and then coming back and trying to get this other deal? That's kind of what my concern was, but
I don't know if I have a good answer to that. I do think at some point geographic equity plays into the equation, but also recognizing it's a different agency as well. And then again, I think for a lot of these grants, I think it's just, there wasn't a whole lot of money for this reconnecting communities nationwide. The 35 million received for projects. You see 30 million was the one big transformative project. There's $195 million available this year nationwide. Doesn't go very far, right? With the amount of projects being, I'm not sure what the asks were, but it's just typical you're seeing with all these competitive programs is you have a lot more quality projects than you have money available to go around. So it's not really a knock on the projects. That's why typically you see some of these projects, this is the first round of it, but obviously we don't have a lot of time for this one because it's already in design, but you'll see some agencies, take some 1 or 2 attempts to get to the process. And the first one's gonna be probably the most competitive because everybody's applying. And then you'll get some awarded, so then maybe the pool gets lighter going down for future phases because there's 5 rounds of this. But the California one is $150 million for just California only. So it lends itself to it should be slightly less competitive, but timing is a factor.
Question. Just to clarify, I'm sure you have received the email from the staff on the population on the southbound draft. Do you have any update on that?
I did talk to them today. So typically what they do is they look at the percentage change. it is something that, you know, I think bringing to our attention helps because I'll be, in all honesty, it's probably not the highest priority on our maintenance folks list, of course. And then depending on what the change is, it could be just a screen change on the existing sign, or they'll evaluate if they need to order a new sign. But I did talk to my counterpart in maintenance and operations, so since it was brought to our attention, that's something I think we could hopefully accelerate and get that addressed.
Also, I mean, I know that 99 Robertson, the over-ramp, the roundabouts. I mean, I don't know if they consider that putting a Christmas tree in the middle when they're during a Christmas tree time on the roundabout, or if that option in a design been considered or option is available.
There's a Christmas tree story's been around for a while.
Exactly. That's
And
why I don't.
I think we can discuss that. I think the concern, you know, my understanding of the history of putting it in the middle of the roadway was it fell one year, right? I think since we have flexibility of landscaping roundabouts, if there's a way to be done where it's not, I mean, technically, landscaping roundabouts is already allowed. So I think under a permit, I think we have a little more flexibility to have that conversation. I just recommend, let's have that conversation early. I mean, in the past, I think we've former city manager come to us like maybe like in December 1st and let's talk about it, but I think there's some opportunity for that. That's kind of the beauty of the roundabouts. It gives you a little flexibility for community identity and things you want to do, so.
That's why I just wanted to bring it up. If they're doing the design, maybe consider that option if it's available.
Okay. Make some money off it, money back to the roundabout.
And the overpass would pay for itself.
Eventually, right?
How many times is it gonna get ran over?
I have a comment. Thank you for the raised grant letter and moving that forward, but I also forgot to report, because I know that was significant too.
Accomplishment if we get that done.
Yeah, so Michael put in a lot of work to get that letter of support, so thank you. I also last week went to Sacramento and met with Tony Tavares, who's the director of Caltrans, and you know, it's taken some time to educate all of them about, you know, the importance of State Route 99 and finish the 99, and he's seemed definitely on board. It was a positive meeting. I was glad I went all the way up there for just a 45-minute meeting, but it was great to hear him say, he did say he signed the letter, so maybe it's just sitting there somewhere before they process them all, so you will, I'm sure the county will be receiving a letter. Kind of expressed our need to get letters of support, even though it may not look like on paper that it aligns with statewide goals, but yet these projects do. Their safety, their goods movement, and we're doing other things as Michael mentioned, you know, being able to tell the full story on the other projects that we're working on in like downtown Madera on 145 and our multimodal corridor studies up in the foothills or whatever it might be. We just need to do a better job at telling our stories, what the message was. We are going next week to meet with Soria, Caballero, Alvarado Gil, and Patterson. So again, trying to get them to understand some of our priorities in the area and get their support. And I know you've met with them as well. And we're all sending the same message that we have projects and we have needs, and these are, you know, we need your assistance, but we're here to assist you too. So.
Thank you. With that, we're moving on to 11C, which is item from the commissioner.
No report.
I have nothing to report, but I will ask for an electronic version of the survey. Because we have a big community meeting coming up the beginning of March, and I'm happy to share that with the folks over there.
Absolutely.
Yes, I do. Item 4Q, Patricia states that, you know, the Senate Appropriations Committee will again be accepting member requests. How can we add this particular program that we did not get and request, or at least show the need of why, you know, certain areas like Madera get overlooked when it comes to reconnecting these communities? So how do we formulate some letter of support or something requesting that this is why there's such a big need around this area? I mean, I hate to say the fact that we don't get this funding, I'm not sure if it puts our project at risk, or at least for the design that the community had engaged in. And I'm really disappointed to hear that that's not something that we're gonna get. I was very hopeful and optimistic that we did. I'm still optimistic that we'll find other funding sources to do it, but this is a pretty good opportunity for us to maybe reach out to our senator. It looks like Feinstein is the senator, right? And
Feinstein and Padilla both have their applications are open.
okay,
And so there's a process within their application. I'm not sure if your consultant would be able to take a look at that. We did send it to your staff. There's also some other appropriation, community grants, potential funding as well. There is a little caveat. There might be some changing because of shifting on power or the shifting in the House and the Senate. They may change the rules related to funding what they refer to as earmark projects, but they Feinstein and Padilla have opened up their application process. The deadline is at the end of March, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going off memory. And so we have a lobbyist that if you have questions, she's available to respond accordingly. She's asking that, you know, if you're interested, to contact her as soon as possible so that she can, you know, spread her workload out. And so it doesn't hurt to apply. I was told the county had asked me, because they may be looking into it as well, whether or not you just focus on one senator or both. And it's recommended that if you don't have one that's championing one of your projects already, to request both, because sometimes they coordinate together.
so when the word says member request, what is the member request? What is that? Can you specify? Is that
The member is
MCTC or is that the city itself? Or?
That's Feinstein or Padilla. Those
Yeah,
are the
but it's
members.
accepting member requests from who? Is it requesting it from the organization, requesting it from the city? How would we go about trying to provide some type of a letter of support? Who would we?
Well,
Did you
I'll
say
have
the
to dig into
consultant?
the application process. There's a certain application you go by, and then if it requests letters of support, then we would all, you know, gather letters of support to attach to that certain request. So there's a link that you need to go to and follow the steps. When I did this with Costa's office, when they went through the congressional, I think it was community grant or something like that, they had a form and you had to identify your project, answering specific questions, what district you're in, you know, how much funding you're gonna ask, what the matching is, what you bring to the table, what the timeline is, you know, there's a lot of different questions. I have not looked at Feinstein's or PDS.
It's like an intake form of sort of application.
Well, if it allows for letters of support, obviously from all members of organizations, whether it be Caltrans, MCTC, individual cities and or county, I think it would behoove us all to try to really advocate for here from Madera County in general, and especially the projects that come before our community, so.
And if you're interested in raise for 145, that, as mentioned, I think the 28th is the deadline. So if you're looking for a letter of support for the city of Madera from Madera Transportation Commission, there's 6 days. And so we're more than happy to write a letter of support for that.
I think in our last meeting, we had that already set out. If this didn't happen, then this is gonna happen. And I'm more than sure that that was one of the steps there, but if not, I'll remind our hearing. So we can expedite that out. Thank you.
Yeah, and you have Mark Thomas on board in there.
Yes.
It'll be great
Yes.
to.
I've been plugged in with quite a few people who had comments about Measure T, and some of the comments I've been getting back were that there was some confusion about the measure in Fresno, that and the advertisement, the negative advertisement against that measure, and how that it filtered over into Madera County. So that was an interesting revelation about some of the, you know, we did have our own opposition here. We had, you know, people who opposed it, and I'm sure that a lot of them didn't even realize why, but there were some who had specific reasons. The forever tax was one thing, but the main opposition that I heard, or the main revelation that I heard, was that it was kind of connected to that the advertising campaign against their measure in Fresno. So yeah, I guess they have their own Measure T.
Yeah, Measure C, and yeah, none of the negative publicity helped. They had
Yeah.
a lot of opposition.
Yeah, and I would say we probably could have really made a dent in the measure, because people don't distinguish, you know, from one county to the next. I'm sure it had an impact. Anyway,
Yeah, sure.
I mean, yeah. That's it. Thank you.
I don't have anything to go. But then we have heard the birthday from the city and celebrating it all year long. 100 years, 100 years. Yep. Great to be part of it for the kickoff and everything. Now we have closed session done and adjourn this thing.